You want to know how to handle Manchester and the search for the bombing, the people who built the bomb and the people who worked with the guy who set it off? Well, go to their one of their most famous residents, and that would be Michael Bisping, the UFC champ. He's the UFC Middleweight champ. He is from Manchester, and we got him out. And I got to say, this was one of the most impassioned and bold takes on what should be done over in England. Here's what Michael said.
Steps need to be taken, action needs to be taken. I don't know what that is. I'm not talking about anything reckless, but more security checks and more raids. More raids on potential terrorist cells. They're not taking the correct steps. They know who these people are. Unfortunately, you know, it's a very politically correct world. We live in a correct time. And people are worried about upsetting people and not saying the right thing. I think when we're seeing children blown up at concerts, it's time to put political correctness out window, and it's time to, you know, take steps to ensure that innocent people aren't murdered.
Well, he had gone on, and this was, you know, look, I think to deconstruct this, I think what he's saying is that, look, the police know there is probably somebody out there in Manchester who was making bombs because the guy who was the suicide bomber wasn't sophisticated enough to do it. So somebody is out there making bombs, and they believe that there are other terrorist cells out there. Presumably, they have leads on who those people might be because they have watch lists, they're tracking them. England has had this problem. So they know, they smell that certain people might, you know, and specific individuals.
They have information, right.
Specific individuals, but I think what he's saying is that it might be painted as they're going after a particular group, Muslims, whatever.
Well, and the problem, not problem, but when Michael says political correctness, that immediately makes you think that's what he means. Well, now, look, we don't know.
We don't know.
Supposing here what he meant.
I guess my issue with it is, for me, it's either one or the other, right? If there's no issue with being politically correct if you raid a place where there are suspected terrorists. When I say suspected terrorists, if you've done your diligence and you have information, why would that be?
It doesn't matter.
Well, no, I think what he's saying is this, that and look, I'm reading in between the lines.
Sure, reading the tea leaves.
Yeah. Once you have enough evidence, at least in America, now it's different in England, but in America, once you have enough evidence to establish probable cause, you can get a search warrant, you can go in and raid. I think what he's saying is whatever that standard, whatever that threshold is in England, lower it a little bit so that we can find these people and we can get them. I think that's what he's saying.
So in that case, then what you do is you deliver victory to the people that perpetrate these types of crimes. Because what they're trying to do is to upset the laws and the rules that we have, which they don't believe in. They're trying to make us circumvent them so that then we'll have anarchy and then we'll forget exactly who we are. So if you take away the standards that we live by, then you waving the white flag.
But here's the thing, that at least in America, and again, I don't know the English system well enough, but in America, what that standard is goes like this over time, depending on who's on the Supreme Court. So there's no rock solid rule on where that is, because depending on whether it's a liberal or conservative court, it has gone like this for decades. So I think what he's saying is shift it down a little bit, given the realities of the world. Now, you may agree or not agree, but I think that's what he's saying.
Hey, it's Kat from Queens, New York, and as a New Yorker, I think that he's coming from a deep place of emotion, especially with this tragic act coming so close to home. And I believe his solution, while I'm not mad at him for it, it's a lot easier said than done. So I guess all we can do is just remain in solidarity with this country and all other countries that are just seeking peace.
We should say, to be fair to Michael, he actually said exactly what you said, that this is much easier said than done. He acknowledged to us that, you know, he doesn't know exactly how they would pull this off.
Can I just say one other thing about him? It's funny because, you know, when you think about fighters, you don't necessarily, it doesn't come to mind about, you know, they're incredibly articulate or whatever else, you know, whether you agree or disagree with them. It's so funny because we've had a lot of UFC fighters on TMZ Sports. They've come into the building, and I'm really impressed. There are so many of them, including Michael, who, by the way, calls fights on FS1, and he's doing it this Sunday.
Yes, for UFC Fight Night, that'll be on FS1, right?
But, you know, I have been really impressed at how thoughtful, and again, you can disagree, agree with him, whatever, but we've seen a lot of these guys, and they have a point of view.
Yeah.
Make sure to subscribe to TMZ Live to keep up to date on the latest entertainment news.
And if you want to keep watching, click on one of these videos right now.